Hey, what's up, GITV Uncut? I'm Daniel. I'm here with assembly technician Kellen. What we're going to be showing you guys today is the birth of a G4. So, Kellen, what G4 are we going to be building today?
I'm going to be building a G4A3 version 2, which is one of the more popular guns that we build here.
Okay, awesome. Why don't we go ahead and get started? So if you guys are not familiar with the G4 series, these guns are based off G&G OEM'd parts, so when we get them, they already come somewhat pre-assembled, but then with the G4 series, we are going to customize it with different barrel lengths, different rail systems, different FPSs. So right now we're going to transform this gun into the G4 A3. So as you guys can see, Kellen's go ahead and he's already went and took off the original barrel. We're putting on, I believe, a Mad Bull barrel. Correct me if I'm wrong, Kellen, but that's a Mad Bull barrel, right?
It's a D-boy barrel, I believe.
D-boys, my apologies. And I believe this is a 14.5-inch barrel to go with the length of the rail system. So what he's doing right now is installing the, I forget what's the name of that tool right there, or this piece?
It's a locking ring.
Locking ring, and that's going to keep the barrel very secured to the upper receiver. We did skip a couple parts just to make this video a little bit quicker. When it does come from G&G, it does have a delta ring on the original barrel, but we actually take that off, or took that off before the video just to save you guys a little time. Also, we pre-installed the dust cover. That takes a little bit more time too, but that's pretty simple. It's not too fascinating. So what Kellen's doing here is, of course, installing that rail system. He's going to line it to make sure that the upper receiver and the upper rails are all put together, and then he's going to lock everything in and secure it all down. And so G&G based guns are really nice. Their polymer is very, very strong, and when Kellen takes his time like this to make sure everything is securely locked down, there is going to be little to no barrel wobble. Nice thing about these rail systems too is we've actually had these rail systems, I believe these are the PE wrist units that are designed specifically for us that we can throw on these G4 custom guns. I know this gun is also available in black and tan. So this was kind of just the first step of the birth of a G4. This is the rail system, so we're going to take a quick break and then we'll go on to some of these other parts. Alright, so we have the rail system already assembled. The next step that Kellen is going to take is installing the front end. And so what he's doing right now is installing the front sight. The G4A3 specifically has a flip up iron sight, which is kind of cool, where if you don't want to have a sight and if you want to use a red dot or an optic, it can be out of the way, but you can always flip it up when you do need it. So one of the important parts about installing the front sight is making sure it's aligned, so when you're going to line it up with the rear sight that everything is put together properly. So there's two pins that go into the bottom of the sight that's going to lock it in and secure it all together. So as I mentioned before too, there are a lot of different G4 variations available. Some of the installations are going to be a little bit different depending on the type of rail system that is out there. So this one we actually chose too because it's one of the relatively simple ones that the video isn't going to take too long for us to actually put up. So now we have the outer barrel and of course the orange tip. So now that we have those pieces installed, we're actually going to get to the most important part of the G4 assembly lineup, which is the QC testing. Every G4 that we ever build, we always test very thoroughly, get the FPS reading, make sure everything is working the way it's supposed to be before we send it out to you. So now that we have it all set up, Kellen's going to throw on the rear sight, and then we're going to go over to the range and test it out. Alright guys, so we're at the firing range, we're about to shoot the gun, but before we do, Kellen, I want to ask you one last question. When we fire these guns, what are you looking for to make sure that these guns are 100% good to go before we send them out to customers?
We'll make sure that the FPS is shooting what it's supposed to be. We'll make sure that it's shooting accurately, shooting straight. We'll also make sure that it's feeding correctly, and just making sure that all the parts are functioning the way they're supposed to be. Hitting all the points before releasing.
Okay, awesome. Wind's picking up a bit. Alright, so Kellen was actually kind enough and he's going to let me test fire the gun to make sure it's working, which is the fun part. So we're going to get a chronograph reading, and so what we're looking for here is consistency, and to make sure the FPS is where it needs to be. So as you guys can see, it's a pretty consistent FPS. Not wavering too much. Most of the shots are actually between 386, 388, and that's exactly where it needs to be. So the other thing we're going to do is test it on full auto, and we're also looking for the blowback to make sure that's working good as well. think that's all good. Kellen, no complaints?
No, look good.
All right, so from this point, everything looked like it's good to go. We're also looking for accuracy, so that's something you guys couldn't see on camera, but it was making a really tight grouping, even though it was kind of a small range, but we want to make sure everything's all set up. So this has been the birth of a G4, so I just want to thank Kellen for showing us these steps. I hope you guys like these videos. I'm Daniel. This has been GITV Uncut. Thanks for watching.